What's going on, y'all? It's JD Pickell. Today on the Hard Count, Jordan Addison is in Austin, Texas for an official visit. What does this mean? We will discuss next. Welcome into CFB with JD, the People's Channel. Everything you know, everything you love about college football, it happens here on a nearly daily basis. Armstrong, Sims, Jack McKenzie doing, in fact, the heavy lifting. You can help drive the show at my Twitter page, at JD Pickell. Again, if you're not following, you're missing out on some of the interaction we're trying to do on this content. Posted a poll yesterday when the news, I don't know if broke's the right word, broke via social media that Jordan Addison was in Austin, Texas for an official visit with the Texas Longhorns. And I posted a poll. I said, is Jordan Addison going to be a Longhorn in 2022? And about 502 of you at this point, there's still time to vote, 8 hours at the time of this recording, 502 of you voted. 54% of you said no, which I was surprised by because, truthfully, we have a pretty strong Longhorn following on our Twitter page, and so I was confused saying, okay, either the Longhorns don't want him or they don't think they're going to get him. What's going on here? That may have shifted a little bit since the news broke in itself. Like, I think that number is still going to be trending in a different direction, but I think there's a lot of reason for buzz about Jordan Addison. Like, if you're a Texas Longhorn fan, I think there's a lot of reason to feel good about this. First of which being, it's his first official visit. His first one. You get to take a visit 5 places. So you got 5 trips lined up, and you can pick anywhere to go first. And he decides, I want to go to Austin to go visit the Longhorns. That says something. To be the first choice of your official visit says something. Also, Bijan Robinson and Xavier Worthy, I think, were both follows that Jordan Addison made on Instagram, I think last night. So there's already some buzz there, and I saw that, and I was saying, okay, that's interesting at the very least, but he's probably in Austin talking to them, meeting them. It's not uncommon to follow somebody on Instagram, especially once you meet them. But take it a step further, Bijan Robinson post a picture of Jordan Addison with the sound behind it that, you can post songs onto your story on Instagram. So he posts a song with it of Drake's No Tellin'. If you haven't heard that song, I would encourage you to look it up. Listen to the clean version. Protect your ears, protect your kids' ears. But essentially that song basically says there's no telling. The theme of it is there's no telling what's going to happen. Nobody really knows what's about to happen. And so Bijan Robinson is, from where I'm standing, saying, hey, we get Jordan Addison on the team, there's no telling what we're capable of. And so the buzz and the hype is continuing to build. Like, when this whole story, again, broke is in quotation marks, when it was announced via social media more or less that he was in Austin, I was like, okay, that's interesting. But now with the way this has trended, right, with Bijan Robinson and the social media buzz, and also the NIL juice that Texas already has, which sounds like it's at the forefront of Jordan Addison's decision-making process, there is a lot of hype that I think is warranted, a lot of Kool-Aid to be drunk that I think is warranted for Jordan Addison coming to UT. Cap it all off, his receiver coach at Pitt, Brennan Marion, is at Texas. And ultimately, that's where kids are committing. And I think one of you mentioned this in a YouTube comment or a Twitter post. One of you mentioned this, and I thought it was an insightful point and something I've been saying since signing day when Travis Hunter committed to Jackson State. Travis Hunter committed to Jackson State, yes, but even more so, he committed to Deion Sanders. And that's the world we're living in. That's, I think, especially right now with the era of the transfer portal and things of that nature. Kids commit to coaches. Like, if Deion Sanders isn't at Jackson State, Travis Hunter likely isn't going to Jackson State. But he's there because Deion's there. Same thing with Pitt. And with Texas right now, honestly. Brennan Marion, I think, holds a lot of cards because he has that relationship that Jordan Addison likely is looking for wherever he's going to go. So is it a lock? By no stretch of the imagination is it a lock. 54% of you would agree with that statement. But there's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of buzz that's building. So does this make sense for Texas? It feels like a no-brainer. It makes sense for Texas. I mean, you got the number 1 receiver in the country that wants to potentially come to your school. Of course that makes sense. It would make them even more dynamic. But the pros for Jordan Addison are wide open offense. So the ball's going to be thrown a lot. Tons of upside with your quarterback in Quinn Ewers. Haven't seen him play a real college game yet. All we've seen him do is make handoffs. But the buzz around him is real. So much upside with him being the number 1 ranked quarterback virtually of all time in the recruiting rankings era. So you got a guy that can get you the football. Then also there's so many weapons around you to where when you're at Pitt and you're Jordan Addison, you're getting double coverage nearly every single play. Like, that's just the way that this thing would go. You're getting a safety over the top, you're getting linebacker help underneath, and you got a corner playing you as well. So there's an enormous amount, an unreasonable amount even, of attention given to Jordan Addison if he were to still be at Pitt. Flip the script, he's at Texas. You got to account for Xavier Worthy. You got to account for Isaiah Neyor. You got to account for Ajay Hall. You got to account for Jaleel Billingsley. Also, by the way, you got a guy named Bijan Robinson, who if they choose to run the football, you got to make sure you're adding guys in for that as well. He's pretty good in the pass game too, so you got to make sure you have somebody guarding him. So you see where I'm going with this? If you're Jordan Addison, you go to Texas, you're likely getting, I don't want to say a one-on-one matchup, but you have much less attention than you would if you're at Pitt. Because Texas has different ways to hurt you, whereas at Pitt, you're force-feeding Jordan Addison the football. Which brings me to the next point. If there were to be a con, and I put this out on social media already, I said this in a previous video, if there were to be a con, it's the fact that there is less football to go around. All the guys I just named need to see some sort of dose of the football, especially Xavier Worthy. He's your guy. He's your horse you got to feed. Jaleel Billingsley over the middle. He didn't come there for nothing. I mean, Jordan Whittington probably needs to see the football a little bit too. So you see where I'm going. There's a lot of guys that need to see the football. Jordan Addison having 100 receptions a year ago, duplicating that at all this year, no matter where you're at, is probably a stretch. But I think having 60 receptions is going to be a hard ask. So we'll see what happens there. There's no reason why you can't force feed Jordan Addison and Xavier Worthy. One of you jumped on Twitter, actually, at Doc_Texas on Twitter, David Allen. He is a phenomenal follow if you love Texas football, and he's done a great job for us, helping us get our product out there. But he made an interesting point. He said, Steve Sarkisian's no stranger to this. He responded to the snippet I put on my Twitter page, and he said, he's no stranger to this. At Alabama, he had Judy, he had Devontae Smith, he had Henry Ruggs. So another three-headed monster that was fondly referred to as the rideouts, if you remember that era. Found a way to get all those guys the football, keep them all happy, and be a threat offensively. And you had to account for all three of those guys because they could go for 100 in any given game. We'll see what happens, which seems to be the name of the game right now with the Jordan Addison recruitment. Just something to keep an eye on. That's the only possible scenario I could see where there's a little bit of, I don't want to say lack of intrigue, but maybe you're not quite as interested in playing second fiddle if it is Xavier Worthy getting the ball. You see less of the football, but again, we'll see what happens. Bottom line, Jordan Addison going to be a dynamic threat wherever he goes. The smoke is trending towards Texas. The Brennan Marion connection is huge. I think that could ultimately be what seals the deal for Texas. That's it for us here on The Hard Count. This is CFB with JD. Appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter at JD Piquel. We are going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.